The last practice I want to talk about is practice number 13. Make it safe to tell the truth. Again, the questions at the top of the screen that you can see on this card image. When was the last time you received or even requested feedback from someone? Do you make it, or have you made it easy for people to tell you the truth? The most proactive people I know don't just listen to feedback and then digest it and implement it. They actually seek it out. They seek it out. You know, Ken Blanchard, as we're all familiar with, said that feedback is the breakfast of champions. Well, I absolutely believe that. And I would go on further to say that I think feedback is the breakfast, the lunch, and the dinner of the most influential people I know. Why is it that we're so hesitant to look in the mirror, to get that feedback from others? What makes it so scary? I know that as human beings, we are vulnerable. And I don't care if you're the toughest president or CEO of a company with the toughest exterior, or you're the front receptionist. We are all vulnerable. We've all chosen different ways to mask it or hide it or deal with it, but we're all vulnerable. And therefore, it makes feedback a little scary. I have found that to make it safe for others to tell the truth, there are 4 key steps to keep in mind or to follow. First of all, assume good intent. You know, I don't assume bad intent when one of my colleagues says, hey, we're eating lunch, and he says, Todd, you got a piece of spinach in your teeth, which happened the other day. That was some feedback, but I didn't think, oh, why is he out to get me? I knew he was looking out for my best interest, so I didn't embarrass myself. But all of a sudden I get defensive, or we get defensive when someone says, hey, I'm sure you're not aware of this, but you tend to dominate the meetings and you don't give others a chance to talk. Well, all of a sudden we think, why have they got it out for me? Why are they trying to criticize me? 99% of the time, people just want to help. So assume good intent is the first step. The other 3 are asking for feedback, evaluating the feedback, and acting on the feedback. Okay, so we've talked about assuming good intent. Let me back up here. I did want to remind us all about what the definition of feedback is, because if we can start with the definition of feedback, maybe we won't be so fearful of it. It's a very positive, or is supposed to be a very positive thing. Feed means to nourish, to sustain, or to foster, and back is to support. So if we can think of feedback, remembering that people are just trying to help, then maybe we won't be so fearful of it. Maybe we will assume good intent. Okay, asking for feedback, that seems pretty obvious, right? We want feedback, we got to ask for it. But it's the way we ask for feedback that makes it safe for others to tell us the truth. For instance, if I were to call one of you that I know is on the line today, my friend Mike has joined us, and I were to call Mike right after we finish today, and I say, hey, Mike, what did you think of my webinar, my presentation? Well, what's Mike going to say? Put on the spot like that. Well, probably, oh, Todd, I thought it was great. You're wonderful. He better say that. But what if maybe 2 days ago, I called Mike and I said, hey, Mike, I noticed you're joining my webinar on Thursday. Could I ask you a favor? As you listen in, would you mind taking notes of what you think I could do better? I mean, yeah, I'd love to hear what you think I did well, but I'm really wanting to get better at this. Would you mind taking some notes? And then I'll call you in a couple of days, or we'll go to lunch and you would maybe share that with me. You see, both scenarios, I asked Mike for feedback, but very different intent on my part and very different outcomes, of course. So the way we ask for feedback is key. Prepare people in advance. Don't surprise them. Don't show up in their office and say, hey, how do you think I handled the meeting? Or how do you think whatever. Prepare them in advance so they have time to get their thoughts together. Remember, it's as scary for people giving you feedback as it is for you to ask for it. Second, ask these types of questions. What am I doing well? What's getting in the way of me doing better? Specifically, what can I do differently? That's the goal when you're asking for feedback. Here's how not to get feedback. Have an agenda, a hidden agenda. Well, I'm really just looking for accolades or compliments. Become defensive. You ask somebody for feedback and they start to give you the feedback and you say, well, no, I didn't do it that, or, well, the reason I do that is because of whatever. Don't become defensive if you've asked somebody for feedback. And then don't deflect. Don't say, well, that's your opinion, I'm not going to do it. Again, you're asking them for the feedback. So that's the second step. The third is to evaluate the feedback. One reason we are uncomfortable asking for feedback is because we think we have to implement all of it. Not true. You are the one to decide what resonates with you, what you're going to implement, and what you're not going to implement. There's a quick story I don't have a lot of time to tell, but when Stephen M.R. Covey, the son of the late Dr. Stephen Covey, wrote his best-selling book, The Speed of Trust, he was all of a sudden put in the limelight, having to speak all over the world in big events, sometimes alongside his world-renowned father. And he wasn't a public speaker, and it wasn't going well. So he pulled aside some trusted colleagues to give him some advice. And he told me in a 2-hour session, they gave him over 42 pieces of feedback. And at his next speaking event, he tried to implement all of it. And it was a disaster. And that was a big lesson that Stephen M.R. Covey learned, to evaluate the feedback and select those pieces of feedback which really resonated with him, with his style, with what he was trying to accomplish. So you don't have to implement all of it. You hear it, you're respectful as you hear it, you digest it, and then you decide. And then the last step is to act on it. You got to act on the feedback. That doesn't mean implementing all of it. That means digesting it, thinking through it, following up with the person, letting them know how appreciative you were of them giving you the feedback, and sharing with them, here's what I plan to do. You know, you gave me these 8 pieces of feedback. These 3, they all were meaningful to me. These 3 really resonated with where I'd like to start. So that's what I'm going to focus on. And if I don't implement this one, I didn't want you to think I didn't hear it. It's just that I'm seeing it a little bit differently. But I also wonder, would you be willing in the future, if I came to you again, to give me some more feedback? That's an appropriate way to act on it. So assume good intent, ask for the feedback, evaluate the feedback, and then act on the feedback. Those are the 4 steps I have found very successful, influential people use to make it safe for others to tell them the truth. The application for this is pretty straightforward. Identify a few people you would feel comfortable doing this process with, and then go to them. And again, ahead of time, let them know why you want to set up a meeting with them. And then during the meeting, take notes, listen, do not interrupt, thank them for the feedback, and then decide what you will implement and share with that person what you're going to do about it. That's the application for making it safe to tell the truth.